You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 282. Your ex isn't holding you back anymore. This is. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hey Bravehearts, welcome back to the podcast. I am coming in hot today with something that's been hitting me like a freight train in my client sessions and in my consultation calls that I'm having for the Bigger and Better Life Mastermind. And here's what I keep seeing. People who have genuinely moved on from their ex. They don't stalk their social media. They're not crying themselves to sleep. They don't even want their ex back. But they're still living in a life that looks suspiciously familiar to the one that they had before. Maybe it's a different apartment, different job perhaps, but the same, what I would call a ceiling. And it's the same invisible limitations, the same unconscious boundaries on what they believe is possible for them. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the invisible ceiling that keeps you playing small even after you've healed from heartbreak, okay? Let me tell you a quick story that kind of blew my mind recently. So I was coaching on a coaching call with a Braveheart who joined the Get Over Your Ex program after following the podcast for over a year. She had done all the work. She's genuinely over her ex. She'd even started dating again. But when I asked her about some of her career goals, she gave me this polite, very reasonable response and answer about wanting to move up in her company and maybe, a 15% raise next year. And I stopped her and I asked, if there were really literally zero limitations on what was possible, if I could wave a magic wand, is a 15% raise really what you would want? What would your career actually look like? And it was so cool to see. I wish I had the visual representation to share with you guys. Her eyes got so wide. She paused and then she said something that changed everything. She said, I wouldn't even be in this industry. I'd actually start my own business helping women redesign their homes after divorce. And I'd make 3 times what I make now, and I would work from anywhere. The clarity dropped in. I'm sorry, what? So why aren't we doing that? Right? I asked, why aren't we doing that? And her answer really hit me in the gut because I think a lot of us think this. But her answer was, because that's not what responsible people do. And that's not what people like me do. In the gut, right there. There it is. That invisible ceiling. Now, it's not her ex holding her back. It's not her heartbreak, but it's this unconscious limitation she placed on herself about what's reasonable and what's available to people like her. And the wild part is that this limitation had nothing to do with her ex. She had it long before her ex, long before they met, right? The breakup just made it more obvious. And here's what I need you to understand. Your breakup didn't just end a relationship. It revealed the invisible ceiling that you've been living under all along. And that ceiling isn't about your ex. It's about those unconscious, what we keep calling limitations, unconscious beliefs that you've placed on yourself in every area of your life. What kind of income is realistic for you? What kind of partner you deserve? What kind of lifestyle is appropriate for someone like you? What kind of happiness is reasonable to expect? And until you shatter that ceiling, you'll keep recreating the same limitations in your life, just with different people and different places. And this is why so many of you have done all the healing work, but you still don't wake up feeling like you've won the lottery every day. You've healed the relationship wound, right? That is so important, but perhaps you haven't shattered the ceiling. So how do you break through this invisible ceiling? I am going to give you 3 very critical mindset shifts that we focus on in the Bigger and Better Life Mastermind, which is my 6-month program for those of you who are over your ex, but wanting to truly create a life that is bigger and better than the one that you imagined, right? Ever even imagined. One that feels like you won the lottery. Amazing. I love this. So mindset shift number 1 is going from what is realistic to what's possible. And most of us make decisions based on what seems realistic given our current circumstances and our past experiences and what we see around us, right? But here's the truth. What feels realistic to you right now is just a reflection of your past conditioning and not your future potential. And instead of asking what's a realistic next step, I want you to start asking what is actually possible here. Now, when one of my former clients asked what was possible instead of what's realistic, she didn't just get a better job in her field. She started her own business and then tripled her income in 4 months. And here's your homework that I want for you is for 1 week, can you just ban the word realistic from your vocabulary? Can you replace it with possible? And just watch how differently you start to think about your life. And please know that impossible, right? There's no such thing. Literally impossible is I'm possible. So crazy, right? So mindset shift number 2 that I want you to think about is going from I need to be ready to I need to just begin. So many of you are waiting to feel ready before you make your big move. Ready to start the business, ready to move to that city, ready to open your heart up again. But here's the brutal truth. Readiness is a myth. No one feels ready for a quantum leap. They just begin. In the mastermind, in my world, we have this saying, begin before you believe. I had a client once who wanted to change from her corporate career. I'm using a lot of career examples. I never realized how into career people that I tracked are into. I love it. But she wanted to change from her corporate career to a career that was so vastly different. She wanted to save the whales. She was terrified to leave her corporate job for this passion. And I remember in one of her coaching sessions, we talked about you don't need to be ready. You just need to begin. Just get started. And that didn't mean she left her job immediately. She began the path towards it so that she eventually did leave. And I'll never forget when she shared with me that she was working with baby penguins. I can't remember if it was in like South Africa or somewhere cool, but I just had the time of my life watching her Instagram, and she was just hanging out with baby penguins in the field that she was so, scared to even venture towards. But she took one small action every day for 30 days. And by that day 31, she didn't just believe her passion could work. She started to have evidence, right? So your homework for this is what's one thing you've been waiting to feel ready for? Right? Take one small action towards it today, not next week, not when you feel ready, but today. Mindset shift number 3 is going from what will people think to what will make me come alive. Alive, my friends, being, my friends. The invisible ceiling is reinforced by your concern about what other people will think of your choices. This is conscious sometimes and unconscious in others. And if you're not over your ex, right, you're thinking about like, what will my ex think? Now, will they judge you for moving on too quickly, for changing careers at your age, for wanting more than what seems quote unquote appropriate? Now, this concern keeps so many of us playing small, staying safe, and living a life that is designed by a committee rather than by your own conviction and commitment. Now, in the mastermind, we practice making decisions based off of one single question. And that question is, what will make me come alive? Not what will impress others, not what will seem reasonable to myself or to my parents or to my friends, not what would my ex approve of, but what will make me come alive? What will make you come alive? And I remember a former client asking this, and she immediately realized that staying where she was currently living was just slowly suffocating her creativity. And despite everyone's objections, she moved to a completely different country to pursue her passion in art. It was absolutely amazing. I get an email from her. She's like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm doing it." I mean, come on, right? She's thriving in a completely new community, a career she loved, and a life that gives her goosebumps when she wakes up. Okay? So your homework here, make one decision today based solely on what will make you come alive. And notice the resistance that comes up, because resistance will be there. But notice the concerns about what other people might think, but do it anyways. Okay? Now, I want to connect these mindset shifts back to your breakup journey, right? I'm going to review these mindset shifts, right? Mindset shift number 1, what's realistic to what's possible. Number 2 is from I need to be ready to I need to begin. Number 3, what will people think to what will make me come alive? Now, connecting these mindset shifts back to your breakup journey, when you're in the thick of heartbreak, your focus is understandably on healing the wound that has taken place, on getting through each day, on learning to exist without this person who was so central to your life. That work is necessary. That work is important. And if you're still in that phase, please keep going. The podcast has dozens of episodes to support you through that process. The Get Over Your Ex program will help you heal that wound in 3 months or less and give you a newfound sense of yourself that is so freaking refreshing. But once you've done that work, once you can go days without thinking about your ex, once you can see pictures of them without feeling that pit in your stomach, it is time to shift your focus. It's time to move from healing the wound to shattering the ceiling that is above you. Because the ultimate revenge isn't just getting over your ex, it's creating a life that is so magnificent, so aligned with your deepest desires that your breakup becomes a footnote in your hero's journey rather than the defining chapter. What? So this is exactly why I created the Bigger and Better Life Mastermind, which closes for enrollment March 31st. We begin April 1st. Now, this mastermind is for those of you who, 1, have done the healing work and are generally over your ex, or at least for the most part over your ex. Number 2, you're ready to stop playing small, break through the invisible ceiling. Number 3, you want to collapse that timeline between where you are now and where you're truly meant to be. And number 4, you're committed to building a life that feels like winning the lottery every morning. When you wake up, you feel like you won the lottery. Now, this isn't about incremental growth. It's about quantum leap. Okay. Now, my clients don't just improve their lives slightly, they transform them entirely. And to be honest, Bravehearts, this isn't about overnight success. It's about sustainable transformation to me. Now, look, I've watched what happens when people finally see and shatter this invisible ceiling. It's not magic. It's just almost inevitable. And I just remember one of my Bravehearts, she had convinced herself she could only earn a certain amount in her field. Within a few months of our work together, she not only busted through that number, she created an entirely new income stream she hadn't even considered possible before. And another showed up to our first call absolutely convinced she was too damaged for a healthy relationship. The worst. Fast forward, and she texted me from a weekend getaway with someone who treats her with the kind of respect that she couldn't even imagine deserving before. And I watch her again on Instagram. I love seeing the after effects on Instagram. This man treats her like a queen. It is a total vibe. I love watching her with this man. And then just last week, a client told me, Dorothy, for the first time in my adult life, I actually look forward to my mornings instead of hitting snooze 4 freaking times. And she didn't just change her schedule, of course, like that is a part of it, but she changed her relationship with being alive and what that meant to her. Now, the specifics are different for everybody, but the pattern I am seeing is the same. It is seeing the ceiling. It is challenging that ceiling. It is watching your life expand in ways that you couldn't have planned for. You didn't even know it was available. You didn't even know it was on the menu. So in the 6 months that we worked together in this container, we focused specifically on identifying that invisible ceiling in each area of your life, implementing the 3 mindset shifts we discussed today, taking those quantum leap actions rather than incremental steps, and building a self-concept. This is the most important part. Building a self-concept that is so powerful that no circumstance, no person, and no setback can ever diminish it. That to me is gold. Being able to do that, having a self-concept that can withstand any circumstance, any person, and any setback. Think about this for a second. What is the real cost of living beneath this invisible ceiling that you have? It's not just the money left on the table. It's waking up on a random Tuesday without that holy shit, this is my life feeling. It is settling for relationships that are fine instead of completely mind-blowing. It is that gut punch of watching someone else bring your ideas into life because they didn't have that ceiling. They didn't wait to be ready. And here's what I've learned from my own journey and from working with hundreds of brave hearts. Investing in breaking through this ceiling isn't just another coaching program expense. It's betting on yourself in a way that transforms literally every area of your life. And that's why joining the mastermind isn't about the price tag. It's about what it costs you to stay where you are for another year, another 5 years, another decade. And you have no idea how often I hear people say next year to their dreams. Not only that, a lot of people start with, well, maybe next year. And I'm like, what? That I'll be ready someday story, it's the exact ceiling we've been talking about this whole episode. There's no magical moment where you'll suddenly feel prepared enough to create your bigger and better life. The container closes March 31st, and that's it. No extensions, no exceptions. We're down to our final 3 spots as I'm recording this, and I'm fiercely protective of keeping this intimate. So when these spots are gone, they're gone until 2026. If something in your body is buzzing right now, that little voice saying, this is for me, please honor it. Go to dorothyabjohnson.com/bigger, better life mastermind while you're in this moment of clarity. Don't let your ceiling talk you out of it with maybe later or let me think about it. That is just fear masquerading as practicality. And your future self, the one living that lottery-winning life, will thank you for making the decision today, not tomorrow. And here's what I want to leave you with today. Your ex didn't just leave your life, okay? They created space for a version of you that's been waiting to emerge, a version unbounded by limitations of your past relationship, your past conditioning, and your past belief systems about what is available and what's possible to you. The question isn't whether that version of you exists, because it does. The question is whether you'll have the courage to become her. The question is whether you will have the courage and the bravery to become her. It's scary. And here's the thing, I believe you do. And before I wrap up, I want to challenge you with something that might feel uncomfortable. Might feel a little bit uncomfortable, okay? What if your breakup wasn't a detour from your dream life, but a direct path to it? What if the universe didn't take something from you, but rather created space for something greater? And what if the only thing standing between you and that greater vision isn't your past, but it's your outdated beliefs about what's possible for your future? That ceiling that we've been talking about. I want you to sit with that this week, journal on it, notice what opens up for you. And until next time, brave hearts, remember, healing is just the beginning. The magic happens when you shatter that ceiling. And if today's episode resonated with you and you're ready to break through your invisible ceiling, join us in that Bigger and Better Life Mastermind starting April 1st. And if you found value in this episode, please leave a review and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps me reach more brave hearts who are ready to do heartbreak differently and to build that bigger and better life. which includes turning their pain into power, their heartbreak into happy, learning how to heal heartbreak in a new way so that they go on and heal the world in their own unique way. So I love you all so much. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.